Hey gang, Jane back with another crochet technique tutorial. This one's in response to all the requests for a demonstration of the join as you go or JAYGO method on a square that has a solid stitch edge. My original tutorial for the join as you go method was done on my Zippy Square, which has a chain stitch border. But the great thing with this method is it's adaptable to work for almost any square. And today, I'll show you how to use it on a square with a solid stitch border. And what I mean by that is no chain stitches on the border of the square itself, just straight single crochet or half double crochet or double crochet, so on. So this square is my Free Spirit square pattern, and it has a solid border. So unlike another square that I've done, this one's the Adelaide. Most of my squares now I do with a chain border. So it's a single crochet in either a chain 1 or a chain 2. You could do them with a solid border. So here's the Adelaide with a solid border. This is just single crochet all the way around. You can still use these squares with the join as you go lacy method that I have. And because I like to do my demonstrations with a purpose, I'll be joining 4 of these squares and working into a simple pillow cover. I'll just show you how to create the front, and then I like to use a different square in the same color palette to create a back. Then I get to have one pillow with 2 looks. The back of this pillow, I used the Mystic Harmony square, and since it had a chain stitch border, I used the original JAYGO method. Just a side note that this tutorial is not specifically about making this pillow, but I figured if I'm going to show you how to join the squares, I like it to be useful, so a pillow it will be. But you can also use this method to make blankets and even sweaters. I'll show you along the way where the repeats are to add more squares and then put those timestamps in the description below so you know where to go back to and keep repeating from. I also received a lot of questions on where to work into the corners at the junctures of the 4 squares. I'm going to be showing you how to add stitch markers in along the way to make this a little easier to find those spaces you want to work into. In this tutorial, I'll be using a chain 2 and my edge stitchings around the squares. But I have found, depending on if you're a loose or tight crocheter and what you're trying to achieve, a chain 1 will work just as well. In fact, just to experiment on this, I remade this pillow top after I did this tutorial again, with a chain 1 in place of the chain 2s, and it worked out nicely and even created a bit firmer pillow top. Blankets you like to have a looser feel and a little more flow, and pillow tops, you might want them to be a little firmer. But as always, I say experiment and don't be afraid to rip it out if you want to do it differently and you're not happy. After all the work you put into those squares, it's worth getting the finishing look that you want. You can find the links in the description below to all the information for the Free Spirit square, the yarn I use in this tutorial, the original Zippy Square, and the original JAYGO Join As You Go tutorial, as well as the free patterns for each of the squares. So what you're going to need for this tutorial is 4 squares. Any 4 squares will do. I have 4 of my Free Spirit design here in different colorways, and they all have a solid border. They need a solid border. That's what this tutorial is about. I have the yarn that I'm going to use to do my joining, which is one of the colors that's in these squares. This one is Red Heart with Love, and it's called Real Teal. I have the 5.0 millimeter crochet hook that I used to make these squares, so I use the same hook that I made the squares with. You'll need a darning needle and some scissors, and also some stitch markers, because I'm going to show you in this one how to mark certain areas so when you come back to them, you know what space or stitch you're working in. The stitch markers I have here have a slit in them, like they open, so that I can remove them and I can put them on at any point in time. See how it's open, and I can also close it to make sure it doesn't fall off, and I can open it to put it on and take it off. That's what you're looking for in a stitch marker. I have a kit here of 3 different colors. The different colors helps as well. I just picked these up at my local Michael's, I think it was. If you're interested about the colors I used for these particular squares, I have listed the information on the blog post for this tutorial over on my website. Take your squares and arrange them any way that you want to attach them. So I have mine laid out like this, and then I call this square 1, square 2, square 3, and square 4. And that's how I'm going to attach them. I will go across, and then I will come back across the bottom, and then I'll attach this one. Then I will attach this one, and then finally attach it to this one, and work my way around and back up to the top. I'll have the diagram for this over on my website. All right, let's get joining these squares. Now I have my first square, and I'm going to start in this top right corner. I have my hook and I have my yarn ready to go. I want to work a single crochet in this top corner in this chain 2 space. So I wrap my yarn first, insert it into that space and under the cut end, pull up a loop, and finish my first single crochet, and that's how I join it in the top right corner. Next, we're going to be working across this top edge. So in the lacy join, I usually just work into the chain spaces. So what I do here is I'm just going to skip every second stitch, so it's going to work out the same. Now I have 19 single crochet across here, so I have an odd number across the top of my square. If you have an even number of stitches, you'll just have one less skip stitch, which will be at the end of each edge before the corner. So it won't even be noticed. But in this case, I have an odd number, so it's going to work out. To begin, we chain 2, skip over the first single crochet, and single crochet in the next stitch. Chain 2, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in your next stitch. And one more time, chain 2, skip your next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. This is how we're going to work all the way across our top edge of square number 1. So you can see here, I've got a nice little lacy edge started. This will be the top of our joined squares. And we're going to go across until we reach this corner. Keep doing chain 2, skip a stitch, single crochet in your next stitch, all the way across, and I'll meet you back when you get to this corner. This method really works the same as if the edges had chain spaces, as in my first tutorial on the Join As You Go, but instead of working into the chain spaces, we're going to work into every second single crochet. Not a big difference. Now I've reached the next corner, and I have one stitch left here to skip. If you find you're in the last stitch, it means that you had an even number of stitches, and that's okay as well. You just won't skip a stitch on your last stitch. So we've done the chain 2, skipping this last stitch if it's there. If not, you're not skipping a stitch. Single crochet in your corner. Chain 2, and go back and single crochet in that same corner. We've worked across this edge and we've turned our corner, and now we're going to work down this edge exactly the same as what we just did. Chain 2, skip a stitch, single crochet in your next stitch. Chain 2, skip a stitch, single crochet in your next stitch. Chain 2, skip a stitch, and single crochet in the next stitch. You're going to work that all the way down until we reach this bottom corner, and I'll meet you here. Now I've reached the next corner, so I've worked across the first edge, worked across the second edge, and I've reached this corner. I skip over this stitch, and again, if you have an even number of stitches, you won't have a stitch here to skip. That's okay. So we want to work a single crochet into the corner, and now we're just going to do a chain 1. Now rotate this square so the wrong side is facing you, and I always rotate it clockwise. And there it is, because it keeps the yarn at the back with my hook. So I now have the wrong side of the square that I've just been working on facing me. Pick up square number 2, whatever that is for you, and right side facing you, wrong sides together, place it on top of the square that you just worked on. So this is considered your new square, and this is considered your old square. Square number 1 is on the back, square number 2 is on the front. You're now going to work a single crochet into the top right corner of the new square. Continuing on with the same yarn, you didn't fasten anything off. Now that we've worked the single crochet in the front corner, we're going to chain 1. Looking at the square that's at the back, you're now going to work a single crochet into the chain 2 space that you created when you worked down that edge. So single crochet in that chain 2 space. Chain 1. Come back to your front square, skip a stitch, and work into the next stitch. Single crochet, chain 1. Go back to the back square, next chain 2 space, work a single crochet, chain 1. Front square, skip a stitch, work into the next single crochet, chain 1. Back square, next chain 2 space, work a single crochet, chain 1. Front square, skip a stitch, and work into the next single crochet, chain 1. Back square, work into the next chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 1. Let's take a look at what we've done. So you can see we're working the lacy join, and in the front square you're working into every second single crochet, and in the back square you're working into the chain 2 spaces you made coming down that edge. You're going to work your way just like that all the way up until you reach the corner on the front square. So remember, it's skip a stitch on the front, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, and then work a single crochet in the chain space on the back, chain 1. That's the repeat. Work your way just as we've done all the way up until you reach this top corner, and I'll meet you back here and we'll continue on. We worked our way all the way up our edge, always skipping a stitch on the front square and always working into the chain 2 space on the back square with chain 1s in between. We've reached the front square corner, opposite corner to the one we started in. I want to work a single crochet. So remember, you have a chain 1 already on there from the back. And now I want to work a single crochet into that corner, chain 1, work a single crochet in the back square's corner, chain 1, and now we're going to turn our work. Let's take a look here. So now you can see you've worked your join all the way up the center here. These two squares are now joined with this lacy join. This side has every second stitch skipped, and this side is worked into the chain 2 spaces we created with our edging. Now we're going to turn our corner and work across this top edge, and we're going to work exactly like we did across here. So this is going to be chain 2s with single crochets in every second stitch. So just to recap, we ended single crochet in the front corner, then we did a chain 1, single crochet in the back square's corner, and a chain 1. And then we turned our work so we're facing this way. Now we're going to go back in and single crochet in square 2 into the corner so that we've come back in and worked that corner twice. Now we start again with the chain 2, 1, 2, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in the next stitch. Chain 2. Skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. And one more time, chain 2, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in the next stitch. That's what you're going to do all the way across until we reach this corner. I'll meet you in the corner and I'll show you how to turn it and go down the next edge. We've reached the next corner. I've ended single crochet, chain 2, skip the next stitch. And again, if you have even stitches, you won't have a stitch here to skip. Work into the corner, chain space, single crochet, chain 2, and another single crochet in that same corner so that we've turned and we're now working down the next edge. So we've worked across the top of square 1 and down the side of square 1. Then we've joined square 2 and worked across the top of square 2. Now we're going to work down the far edge of square number 2, and then I'm going to complete it as just the 2 squares. Now say if you wanted to make this into a blanket instead of a pillow like I'm doing, you can continue to add as many squares as you want for the width of your project. I'll show you the repeated section for this when we get to the next corner. So let's go down this edge next. So I've rotated my work so that I can work down this edge now. We're going to chain 2, skip a stitch, and single crochet in the next stitch. Chain 2, skip a stitch, and single crochet in the next stitch. Chain 2, skip a stitch, and single crochet in the next stitch. Keep working like that until you get to this corner, and then we'll stop and talk about our options. So we've reached the corner, and now what we want to do is work a single crochet into that corner. And you can see that I skipped that stitch before I got there. At this point, if I wanted to add another square, this is where I would be doing it. So let's take a look at the diagram and see where the repeat is. This diagram is actually laid out for 6 squares instead of the 4 that we're using so that I can get a better idea of showing you where the repeat is. You would be going back now to A, where the repeat begins, joining your new square, working up to the corner marked B. Then working across the top of your new square to the next corner marked with the C. Then you'll work down the next edge of the new square to the corner marked by D. This is the end of the repeat, and you would go back to the instructions for A. Now today I'm just showing you how to join 4 squares for a pillow top. So at this point we have completed adding our squares for the first row, and we're going to work our way back along the bottom. Now turn your work so that the unworked edge is facing the top. That's the edge we're going to work on next. And get your stitch markers ready because we're going to be using them as well. So we've done 1 single crochet into this corner, and because I'm turning the corner and working across now, I want to chain 2, and I want to work another single crochet into that corner. We're going to work our way across this edge just as we did the edge here and the edge at the top. To do that, we will chain 2, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in the next one. Chain 2, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in the next one. Chain 2, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in the next one. We're going to continue that all the way across until you reach this corner, and I will meet you here to talk about how we do the join. I've reached the corner and I'm ready to work across the join. I ended here with a single crochet and a chain 2. I'm going to skip the next stitch and work into the corner space right here, single crochet. Chain 2. The next place you want to work is right in this join. So when you did the joining of these two, you did a chain 1 stitch before you did the single crochet over here. That's going to create the space that you're going to join into. Right there. Work a single crochet into that space. Now here's where your marker comes into play. This chain 2 space that you just created between this single crochet and that one, you want to place a marker in there. So take one of your markers and put it in that chain 2 space. Right there. Just like that. Moving on, we're going to chain 2. And now we're over to square 1 again. And we're going to single crochet in this corner space. And you can see you already did a single crochet in there when you did the join. That's the second single crochet in that space. Come back to this chain 2 that we just created between the last single crochet and the one we just did. And you want to put a marker in there as well. I like to use a different color of marker so I can distinguish them, but it doesn't matter if you only have one color marker. That's okay as well. See how I've got a marker in each of those chain 2 spaces? Because when we come back in the next row, I'm going to need to know where those spaces are. When I did the zippy join as you go, I didn't place markers, and I had a lot of people ask where to find those spaces. This is how we do it. Placing markers is a really good idea because when you come back, there's a lot going on in this join area, and it's nice to know where exactly you want to join. So moving on, square number 1 again. We're going to work across this edge just like we've worked across all the other edges. Chain 2, skip your next stitch, and single crochet in the next one. Chain 2, skip your next stitch, and single crochet in the next one, chain 2, skip your next stitch, and single crochet in your next one. That's what we're going to do all the way across until we reach this corner. I'll meet you here to continue on. Now I've reached the next corner. Let's just flip our work around so you can follow what we've done so far. We actually started up here, so I have everything turned around now, but we started up here, worked across our top, then worked down our side, then we joined the next square. Then we worked around that square, and if you were to join another square, you would start it here, but because we're going to finish with only 4 squares, this was the end of our first row. I worked our way back across the bottom edge, worked into the join and placed our markers, and then worked across the bottom of the final square, which is actually square 1, the square we started with. Okay, now let's flip our work back and we're going to continue on. Now we're going to add our second row, and this will be the row that you would repeat again if you were doing a blanket. This is just the border row. The next row is the actual row that you will do over and over and over again if you're going to make a blanket. We're only making a pillow though, so I'll only be doing it once. So recapping where we finished off, we worked our way across here, worked a single crochet, chain 2, skip the next stitch, and work into the corner, single crochet. And now we do a chain 1. Now we're going to be taking our next square, which is I call square number 3, and joining it to square number 1 the same way we did right along this join. We're going to rotate our work. I always like to rotate clockwise so my yarn stays at the back where it's supposed to. This is square number 1. I'm going to take square number 3 and place it on top. Wrong sides together. The right side of square 3 is now facing me and it's considered the front square. Square 1 is now considered the back square. And we're going to work our join just like we did down the side, except now we're working across these 2 squares. In the front square, which is square 3, work a single crochet in the chain space corner. Chain 1. In the back square, you're going to work a single crochet in the first chain 2 space here. Chain 1. Come back to the front square, skip a stitch, and work a single crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1. And the back square, go to the next chain 2 space and work a single crochet. Chain 1. So there's your repeat. Front square, skip a stitch, single crochet, chain 1, back square, single crochet in the chain 2 space. Chain 1. Front square, skip a stitch, work a single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, back square, move to the next chain 2 space, and single crochet. Keep working until you reach this corner, and at that point, we're going to turn and work down this edge. Now that we've reached our corner on our front square, we ended with a single crochet in the back square chain 2 space, chain 1, single crochet in the front square chain space, chain 1. Now moving to the back square, this is where our first marker comes into play. You want to go in where the first marker that you come across was the second marker that you placed, but it's the first marker when you're moving in this direction. That chain space, you're going to work a single crochet into. Then you're going to do a chain 1, and we're going to rotate our work because now you want to work down the side of square number 3. We're going to go back into the corner. So we already worked 1 in this square number 3. We're going to work another 1 in there, single crochet. That turns our corner, and then we do a chain 2. Now we're going to work down this edge just like we worked all the other edges with our chain 2s and skipping a stitch. Let's get going on that. Skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2. Skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, and chain 2. That's what you're going to do all the way down until you get to this corner. I'll meet you here and we'll join a new square. So what have we done so far? This is square 1, this is square 2, this is square 3. We worked our way up square 1, down, joined square 2, up square 2, around this edge, and back across, placed our markers here as we worked across our edge, till we got to the corner of square 1 again. Then we joined square 3 to square 1, and then worked down the edge of square 3. So now that we're all caught up, we're going to bring in square number 4, placing it here. We're going to join it here to square 3. We're going to work our little join at the corner here with this marker, work square 4 to square 2, joining it along here. Then we're going to finish off by working down the edge and across the bottom and up this edge. And that will be our pillow color. So let's continue on joining square number 4. We finish off this edge of square number 3 by skipping this last stitch and working a single crochet in the corner. Then we chain 1. Now we're going to rotate our work, and I again like to do it clockwise. I have my yarn at the back. The wrong side of square 3 is facing me now, and I take square 4, place it on top of square 3. Right side of square 4 is facing me. It's considered the front square. Square 3 is now considered the back square. Again, wrong sides together. You want to work a single crochet in the corner of square number 4. Chain 1. Work a single crochet in the back square in the chain 2 space. Chain 1. Skip the next stitch on the front square and work into the next one, single crochet, chain 1. Back square, we look at the next chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 1. Front square, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1. Back square, the next chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 1. That's the repeat all the way up to the corner of square 4. I'll meet you here, and then we're going to do this nice little join. Now let's take a look. We've reached this top corner, and I kind of want to show you this way before we actually do it, what we're going to be doing. We're going to work into this corner on what I would call the front square. Then we're going to move to the corner on the back square, which is created by a chain 2 space, which is right here. Take my hook out of here and try to show it to you. Right here is the corner on the back square, right there. Not this marked space, this one. So we're not going to be working into that marked space on this leg of the race. This one we worked into when we came across here. So we go from here to the corner on the back square, then we're going to jump over to this marked space. That's the space we're going to go into. Then we're going to work back into this corner. So that will just kind of pull this join in, and then we'll continue on. I wanted to leave this marker in so I could show you where you're not working. But as you work across here, when we did that, and we worked into this stitch that was marked, you could take that marker out, and then it doesn't confuse you when you get back to here and go, oh, which marker is it? It's always this second one. And what you could do is when you come across here, just remove this marker, and then it's not there to think about, so that when you come back up here, there's only the one marked space. The reason I left it in place is because I wanted to show you, because we marked them both, where that stitch was in comparison to where we were going next. So again, we go from here to the corner of the back square, which is in here, skip over this mark stitch, and we go into this marked stitch space. It's actually a space, not a stitch. Then we come back to this corner and we continue on and join along here. So let's go ahead and actually put this into action. Square number 4, we're working into the corner and working a single crochet and a chain 1. This is square number 3, and we would normally have it held like this. You're going to work into the corner space. So look, take a look here, not the one you just worked into in the back, but the next one right here, single crochet, chain 1. Now, opening this up, you're going to go into this marked space here. This was the one we worked before. You could have removed that marker and that would eliminate you having to worry about it. But it'll be the second marker as you're moving in this direction. That's the chain space you want to go into next. Single crochet, chain 1. Rotating our work back so that square number 4 matches with square number 2. We want to work into this square number 4 corner again. See how we just worked into that like just a few seconds ago? We worked into this. Now we want to work into it again. Single crochet, chain 1, and we're off and running to join these two squares together. Square number 4 is now your front square. Square number 2 is your back square. We move to the back square and do a single crochet. This is the space we worked into already with the marker. We move into the next one and we work a single crochet, chain 1. Come back to the front square, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1. Moving to the back square, next chain 2 space, single crochet, chain 1. Front square, skip a stitch, working into the next one, single crochet, chain 1. This is how we're going to work, just like we've been doing, all the way across this one till we reach this corner. I'll meet you back here. I've reached the corner. On the front square, I want to do a single crochet, chain 1, move to the back square and work that corner into the chain 2 space of the corner, single crochet, chain 1. And now we're going to rotate our work because we want to work down this edge. Work a single crochet back into that corner that we just worked into on the front square, chain 2. So working down an outer edge, we always want to do a chain 2. Skip the first stitch, single crochet in the second stitch, chain 2, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2. Work that all the way down to this corner. Once we've reached this corner, we work a single crochet, and this is the point at which you would join another square. So I will mark that on the chapters where the repeat starts, where you would go back to if you wanted to join another square. Because we're doing a pillow cover and we're only doing the 4, we're going to rotate and work back along our bottom. Chain 2 and single crochet back into that same space. Chain 2, skip the next stitch and single crochet in the next stitch. See how all of our outer edges are all chain 2s? When you're joining, it's a chain 1, and when you're just working an outer edge, it's a chain 2. So we do a chain 2, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next one, and you're going to work this way all the way till we get to this corner. Now this part is the same as how we did working across this row as well. So we're just doing that again. When you reach the corner, you do skip that last stitch and you single crochet in the corner, chain 2. When you're working across the join, you're looking for that center space. It's a little bit smaller because it's only a chain 1. It was the chain 1 that you used to bridge between these two squares when you were starting to join this square. So right in here is that chain 1. And because this is our last row, we don't need to be placing any markers here. You worked a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the next square's corner, chain 2. Now we work the same way across till we reach this corner, skipping a stitch and single crocheting. So let's get started that, and then I'll let you go ahead. Skip the next stitch, single crochet in this stitch, chain 2. Skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next one, chain 2. All the way across until you reach this corner. I'll meet you back here. We've reached our corner. We single crochet in that corner, I'm not joining any more rows, but at this point you would begin to join a new row if you were making a blanket. Now we're going to go up and finish off our last unworked edge. So we rotate our work, and I just want to work up this last unworked edge. This edge will work exactly the same as the edge we just did. So we go around and we chain 2 into our corner again, single crochet. That turns the corner, chain 2, skip the first stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. See how all the borders are the same? We'll be working along here till you reach this corner. At this point, you will do the same as you do at the other joins. You will do a single crochet in here, chain 2, single crochet in this chain 1 space, chain 2, and a single crochet in the next corner. And you'll keep on doing that until we reach our final corner where we started. I'll meet you back here to complete our pillow top. And back we are to the corner we started in for this entire join. Work a single crochet, chain 2, and slip stitch in that first single crochet. And that completes the entire join. And that is all there is to the JAYGO method using a solid stitch border square. This method will work on almost any granny square, and now you have both versions, so a chain stitch edge square or a solid stitch edge square, you can work this method. I know you're going to ask me how to complete this pillow top, so I'll briefly go over how I finished this up. The goal is to make your front and back pieces match in size and to find a pillow form that they match. I chose 2 different size squares for the front and the back, so you may have to add a few border rounds to make the front piece match the back piece. Then you can join the 2 pieces together using any method you want. I tried out 2 different methods. I did join them using the same single crochet chain 1 stitch I used on my edgings, and I worked through both pieces to join them around the 3 edges. Then I inserted the pillow form and finished crocheting them together across the 4th edge. The second time I tried it, I actually used the join as you go method, and I worked that around 3 edges, put the pillow form in, and then I finished it off. Both methods worked really well and really kept a cohesive look to the pillow. You'll also want to make sure your pillow form is washable unless you want to pick out your stitches to wash it, which I've done on occasion. The other option is adding buttons at the top instead of crocheting it together. And that completes the join as you go on solid stitch squares. So grab your squares and start joining those projects together. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to my channel so you're sure to catch all my tutorials as they come out. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.